Good morning. Am I audible to all of you? Right. Let's start. Today we'll again try to cover 15 questions based on critical reasoning. And again, the level is slightly higher. Okay. 5 questions at a time. I have given you the rights. You can check. From question number 1 to question number 5, we'll solve first, when discuss them, and then we'll move to the other questions. So it's almost 9:35 right now. I think 15 minutes will be sufficient. 9:50, we will start the discussion of question 1 to question number 5. Please start. Okay, I think that is sufficient time. So let's start. Question number 1. What does it tell you? That 8 years ago, hunting was banned. Deer hunting was banned in Greenfield County. And because of this ban, the deer population is now 6 times what it was before the ban. The problem is that the deer are now invading residential areas, they are damaging property, they are causing motor vehicle accidents, because of which there are serious injuries to motorists. So he concludes that the ban was not only unnecessary, but it has also created a danger to public safety that would not otherwise exist. So he believes that the deer population has increased because of the ban, and this ban was unnecessary because it has caused danger to public safety. Now the question is, which one of the following, if true, provides the strongest additional support for the conclusion above? What will prove his conclusion? What will support his conclusion? So he is pinning the blame. What is he doing? He is pinning the blame for the increase in deer population on the ban. So had there not been a ban, then things would not have taken an ugly turn. I think this is what we would need to prove. So what do you think? What should be the answer? Number B, okay. Mohit, you marked number B. Some people have marked number C. Motor vehicle accidents involving deer often result in damage to the vehicle, injury to the motorist, or both. Okay. So, is this does this prove that the ban was unnecessary? The problem is that this is already stated. Okay, this is the number B is already stated that uh, there are serious injuries to motorists. There are motor vehicle accidents. He's asking for additional support. So I think number B is already there. Number B he has already tackled. Okay. So I don't think number B can be right. Arpita, you mark number C. Number C says when deer populations increase beyond optimal size, disease and malnutrition become more widespread among the deer herds. You are skirting the issue. In number C, you are talking about the problem within the deer herds. The question is not what is happening within the deer herd. The question is that because of the increase in population of deer, there are a lot of motor vehicle accidents. And all this increase has happened because of the ban. So I don't think number C also would be correct because number C, what is he trying to, what is he trying to prove? He is trying to prove that all this has happened because of the ban. So how will you prove? The culprit is the ban. The culprit is the ban. Had the ban not been there, then this situation would we would not be seeing this situation. Yes, Mohit, answer should be number A. He can support his conclusion by saying that if you look at surrounding counties where hunting is permitted, there is no ban on deer hunting. Then the size of the deer population has not increased in the last 8 years. And if the size has not increased, all these problems all these problems which Greenfield County is facing is not faced by these surrounding counties. Answer should be number A. Okay, Arpita. Number C is talking about deer welfare. Number C shows that he is concerned about deer welfare, whereas this passage is not about deer welfare. It's about the fact that because of the ban, it has deer population has increased. So his conclusion is that the ban is the culprit for increase in deer population, and because there is increase in deer population, there are numerous issues that this county is facing. But the main conclusion is that the ban is responsible, and because of the ban, there is a danger to public safety. So A should be the answer for question number 1. Please take a look. If any other clarification is required, please ask. Number 2, question number 2, marine biologists have hypothesized. What do marine biologists believe? They believe that lobsters that are kept together in lobster traps, they eat one another in response to hunger. But, you know, periodic checking of lobster traps has, however, revealed instances of lobsters sharing the traps together for weeks. So there have been lobsters that have shared traps together for weeks and still they have not eaten each other. There is no cannibalism among the lobsters. In fact, one particular observation tells you that 8 lobsters even shared one trap together for 2 months without eating one another. So, based on this, the author is concluding that the marine biologist's hypothesis, therefore, is clearly wrong. So, when the marine biologists say that lobsters, when they are kept together in lobster traps, they eat one another in response to hunger, this actually is wrong. That is what the author is trying to prove. Okay. Now, the question is that the argument against the marine biologist hypothesis is based on which one of the following assumptions? What is the author assuming when he says that the marine biologist hypothesis is wrong? What is the author assuming? Any idea? E. Very good. Yes. Answer is E. Great. I was not expecting this, but yes, it is E. Answer is E. The author is assuming that any food that the 8 lobsters in the trap might have obtained was not enough to ward off hunger. Okay? Basically, what he's trying to say is that, yes, 8 lobsters were kept in one trap together for 2 months, but he's discounting the fact that these 8 lobsters, it's possible that they were being provided adequate food from outside. The experimenters, the people who were conducting the experiment, they were providing adequate food to these 8 lobsters. So if these 8 lobsters were already getting adequate food, they were not hungry enough to eat each other. Yes or no? They would eat one another in response to hunger. If you look at the very first line, he says that lobsters that are in lobster traps, they eat one another in response to hunger. Now the question is that if these 8 lobsters, they were well fed, if they were not hungry enough, then why would they eat each other? So the mere fact that 8 lobsters stayed in one trap for 2 months without eating one another does not mean that they will never eat one another if they are hungry. Because in this situation, it's possible that whatever food was being provided, it was sufficient. So yes, E. E should be the answer. The marine biologist, the author is assuming that any food that the 8 lobsters in the trap might have obtained was not enough to ward off hunger. Okay, that is what he's assuming. So he's assuming that these 8 lobsters, they were not getting sufficient food and still they did not eat one another. That is what he's assuming. However, the reality is that if they were getting adequate food, then they would not be hungry enough to eat one another. Are you getting this? Did you understand why E is the answer? Okay. Arpita, can you discuss D also? Yes, D also. What is he assuming? Or the author is assuming that members of other marine species. Now, this is off track. What other marine species do that is immaterial? We are concerned about lobsters. Why do you want to, when you talk about lobsters and when you conclude about lobsters, why do you want to talk about other marine species? They may have different behavioral patterns. They may exhibit different behavioral patterns. Okay. In fact, number D, if you mark number D, even if we assume that other marine species are lobsters we have, then still number D, how he, number D is actually weakening the author's conclusion. It is weakening. It is not an assumption. It is weakening the author's conclusion because what does it say? It says that member of other marine species sometimes eat their own kind when no other food sources are available. This is what author is trying to prove wrong. So number D is contrary to what he's trying to say. Okay. Did you get this? Question number two. Anybody has any issue? Okay. Coming to question number three. I think last time I discussed the pattern to solve these kind of questions. If you climb mountains, you will not live to a ripe old age, but you will be bored unless you climb mountains. Therefore, if you live to a ripe old age, you will have been bored. Which one of the following most closely parallels the reasoning in the argument above? I think it's better that we make it symbolic. It is better if we make it symbolic. We can, we can symbolize it something like this: if X, then not Y. I think this is what we can do. If X, then not Y. Okay. What is X? X is climb. If you climb mountains, not Y means you will not live to a ripe old age. Okay. Now the second part he says, but you will get bored. So this is something new. We will consider it to be Z. Z unless X. Okay. Z will happen unless you do X. After that, he says, therefore, if you live to a ripe age, then you will have become bored. So therefore, if Y, then Z. Yes or no? This means that, therefore, this is what he's trying to say. If Y, then Z. What does X represent? Climbing mountains. What does Y represent? Living to a ripe age. What does Z represent? You becoming bored. So now we know what X, Y, and Z are. So this is the structure. If X, then not Y. Z unless X. Therefore, if Y, then Z. Which one is matching? Puneet, it cannot be E. I think it should be C. If you work for your candidate X, you will not improve your guitar playing. Then not Y. If X, then not Y. Okay? But you will neglect your civic duty, that means Z, unless you work for your candidate. Z unless X. Therefore, if you improve your guitar playing, therefore, if Y, you will have neglected your civic duty. Then Z. I think number C makes absolute sense. It is parallel. Uh, yes or no? You mark E. Please discuss E as well. If you become well, you will not become. ये गलत हो गया ना? This last part. Therefore, if you become wealthy, that means if Y, then not Z. This word not is there. Okay, Puneet, everything is all right in number E. Everything is all right, but the last part should say, therefore, if Y, then Z, right? Whereas the last part says, if Y, then not Z. Because if you become wealthy, then you will not become hungry. That is what he's trying to say. That is why number E is not right. Did you get this? So remember, from next time when you get these kind of questions, all it's better to symbolize it, use symbols. That would be easier. That would make it easier. A, B, and D immediately are gone. If you do not, if you do not, if you do not. So if not X, the pattern for A, B, and D is if not X. That itself is wrong because in the question it never says if not X. It says if X, then not Y. That is why A, B, and D are immediately gone. Okay, like a flow chart. Yes, like a flow chart. So should I move to question number 4? Question number 4. No mathematician today would flatly refuse to accept the results of an enormous computation as an adequate demonstration of the truth of a theorem. Okay. So today, all mathematicians, what would they do? They would accept. They would accept enormous computation to demonstrate the truth of a theorem. When he says no mathematician today would refuse, that means today all mathematicians would accept the results or they will accept enormous computation in order to prove a theorem. However, in the past, this was not the case. This was not the case because there were some mathematicians that refused to accept the results of complex computer demonstrations of very simple mapping theorems. Although some mathematicians still hold a strong belief that a simple theorem ought to have a short, simple proof. Some simple theorems have required enormous proofs. Okay, this is what he's trying to say. But I think even if even if today there are some mathematicians that still hold the earlier belief, even if there are some mathematicians today that still hold the earlier belief that if there is a theorem, then it should require simple solutions and not complex solutions. But the fact of the matter is that even these mathematicians, even if they have doubts, they will still, these mathematicians would not flatly refuse to accept the results of such calculations. Because these mathematicians who have doubts today, they are in, they actually are included in this category. So if the question is asking you if all of the statements in the passage are true, which one of the following must also be true? What must be true? What do you think? Yes, A. This one was, I think, simple. It has to be A. Yes, it means that yes, there are some mathematicians who believe that simple theorem ought to have simple proof, but even these mathematicians will accept the results of an enormous computation as a demonstration of the truth of the theorem. These are same mathematicians who have doubts, but they would not refuse because they are current mathematicians. So no mathematician today would refuse to accept the results of an enormous computation. That is why these people also will not refuse to accept the results of the enormous computation. It should be A for question number 4. Anybody has any doubt? Any other option you think can be right, please ask. Everybody marked A? Okay, good. Very good. If you marked A. Coming to question number 5. Number five, in 1990, major engine repairs were performed on 10% of the cars that had been built by the company in 1970s. Okay. However, when you look at the corresponding figure for cars built by the same company and that were manufactured in 1960s, the repairs were carried out only on 5% of the cars. So how is it that the cars which were manufactured in 1970, 10% of them required major repairs, whereas those cars manufactured earlier in 1960s, only 5% came for major repairs? How is that possible? Because generally what happens, the older the car is, the more repairs are required. So that is the discrepancy. That is the discrepancy. So the question is, which of the following, if true, will help to explain the discrepancy? What explains the discrepancy? Very simple. This question also, I think, is pretty simple. No, it cannot be E. It should be C. The older a car is, the more likely it is to be discarded for scrap rather than repaired when major engine work is needed to keep the car in operation. Why fewer cars manufactured in 1960 have come for repairs? Because probably the cost of the repairs, the cost of the repair is higher than the value of the car. So what is the point? It's better to discard it for scrap. Okay, it should be C. Question number 1 to 5. Please take a look. If you have any doubt, please ask. Anything that requires clarification, ask. If everything is clear, we can move to the next 5. Question number 6 to number 10. I'll give you 15 minutes. It's 10:15 right now. So 10:30. 10:30, we will start the discussion. Start, please. 6 to 10. Okay, let's check. This is sufficient time. Are we done? Uh, Question number 6. Number 6, what does it tell you? A large group of hyperactive children. These children who consumed food containing large amount of additives. This group was observed to assess the presence or absence of behavior problems. So this is a group of hyperactive children who consume food containing large amounts of additives, and this group was observed just to see, uh, 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 just to look for behavior problems. Then the children were then placed on a low additive diet for several weeks, and then they were observed again. So the observations were that originally almost 60% of the children, they had exhibited behavioral problems, but after the change in diet, only 30% of the students or children, they exhibited behavior problems. On the basis of this data, it can be concluded that it is food additives that contribute to behavior problems in hyperactive children. Because when you change the food, then what happens? When you change the diet, then he says that from 60% it has reduced to 30%. Um, um, Children who exhibited behavior problems from the earlier 60%, it has now reduced to 30%. Now the question is, the evidence cited fails to establish the conclusion because why? What is in fact, I just told you the answer, because this guy, whoever performed the experiment, is assuming the diet is the only factor. This person is assuming that diet is the only factor. Okay, you change the diet. You change the diet. But what about other things? Probably you have changed other things also. Another problem is that if you want to say that all this happened because of change in diet, then where is the control group? You should have kept some children, you should have given them the same food that they were already consuming, and then the other group should have been given a different diet, and then the performance should have been compared. If overall you are experimenting on all the children, then there can be other factors also for reduction in behavior problems. You cannot attribute it to change in diet with 100% certainty. You cannot attribute it. So yes, answer is B. There is no way to know what changes would have occurred without the change of diet, since only children who changed to a low additive diet were studied. There's no control group here. Explain D as well. Okay, Nikita. Uh, the conclusion is not established because there is no evidence that the behavior of some of the children was unaffected by additives. So there is no evidence that the behavior of some of the children was unaffected. I think uh, I think there is evidence when he says 60% of children exhibited behavior patterns, and then after some time, only 30% of the children exhibited behavior problems. So there were still some people, there were children whose behavior was unaffected, and 100% people did not change. 100% children did not change the behavior. So number D will not make any sense. Did you get this? Okay. So question number six. Question number six, I think answer should be B. If there's no doubt, I'll move to question number seven. Number seven. This one is very easy. Commercial news. When you look at commercial news media, they emphasize exceptional events such as airplane crashes. They don't give much attention to automobile accidents, even though automobile accidents occur far more frequently, and automobile accidents represent a far greater risk to the public. But because the commercial news media, they emphasize events such as airplane crashes, that is why the public, what it does is, the public tends to interpret the degree of emphasis the news media gives to these occurrences as indicating the degree of risk they represent. So because the news media emphasize events such as airplane crashes, that is why people think that airplanes are more risky. Even though when you look at the reality, automobile accidents, even though they are not emphasized by the news media, but automobile accidents occur far more frequently. So because of the representation of the media, the perception of the people, actually, the perception of the people kind of changes. So if the statements above are true, which one of the following conclusion is most strongly supported by them? I think D. I think D. Wherever we have commercial news media and commercial news media constitute the dominant source of information, then public perception of risk does not reflect actual risk because public perceive that airplane is riskier. I'm coming to see as well. Don't worry. People perceive that traveling by airplane is riskier, whereas the opposite is the case. Okay, opposite is the case. Now, number C. Number C. Events over which people feel they have no control are generally perceived as more dangerous than those which people feel they can avert or avoid. This is dicey because now you are assuming that airplane crash is something over which you have no control, and automobile accident is something over which you have control and you can avert or avoid it. Okay, this number C is based on that assumption. But how can you say that automobile accidents can be averted or avoided, and airplane crashes cannot be averted and avoided? Probably airplane crash happened because of human error. In a sense, isn't this assumption correct? No, it's not correct. It is not correct. We as passengers can't control. Please understand, Nikita. Let us say, yes, you cannot control the plane, but sometimes what happens is that even in automobile accidents, you have no control. You are driving properly, somebody makes a mistake. Then what happens? It was not your fault. You were not in control. Okay, so that is what I'm saying. The problem in number C is that you are assuming that automobile accidents happened because you were careless. No, whether an accident will happen, 50% it is how you drive, and 50% is it is how other people drive, isn't it? Okay. Whenever I start feeling that a statement is too dicey, I leave it. Okay. So what did you mark? You marked C or D? D. Yes. Yes. Good. So I told you why. Okay. I told you why number C cannot be the answer. Is this clear now? Question number 7. Should I move to 8? Okay. Number 8. Let's see. What is he saying? He's saying that if you want coherent solutions for the problem of reducing healthcare costs, then you cannot use the current piecemeal system of paying these costs. So currently, what is happening? Currently, we have a piecemeal system, and with this piecemeal system, we will not be able to reduce healthcare costs. We cannot find a solution to reduce healthcare costs. Why? The reason is that in this system, healthcare providers and insurers, they shift wherever possible the cost of treating illnesses onto each other, sometimes also to the patient. So the hospital will say this cost would be paid by the insurer. The insurance company will say no, we do not cover this. This will have to be paid by the hospital, or this would have to be paid by the patient. So everybody is trying to shift the burden of costs. Okay. So what is this? Because of this, what happens is that when you push in one part, uh, when there is push in one part of this pliable spending balloon, so it is like a balloon. It is like a balloon. Hospital pushes it that side, insurance company pushes it this side, patients push it this side. It is pliable. Pliable means flexible. It is flexible. So this 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 entire thing has become like a pliable spending balloon. Okay, and an equally expensive bulge pops up elsewhere. So if the hospital pushes it towards the insurers, then this will pop out this side. If the insurer puts it on the hospital, it will pop out this side. It is like a pliable balloon. Then he gives you an example. He gives an example. He says, for example, when the government healthcare insurance program for the poor, when it cut costs by disallowing payments for some visits to physicians, then what did patients do? Patients with advanced illnesses, they presented themselves at hospital emergency rooms in increased numbers. So rather than going to physicians, what did they do? In order to pass the burden of costs, in order not to pay, what did they do? They started visiting hospital emergency rooms because emergency services, the cost was not cut on emergency services. So it is like a balloon. You hit it from that side, it bulges on the other side. The other person hits it from that side, it bulges on your side. This is what is happening. And because of this, because we have a piecemeal system, we cannot find a coherent solution for this problem. Question is, how does this argument proceed? What has he done? What strategy has he applied? Okay. By the way, Nikita, if you want to mark A, what is the premise of healthcare reimbursement? Are you aware? Are you aware what is the premise of healthcare reimbursement? No. So which means A cannot be right. When you don't know what is the premise, then how can you say? How can you say that the author is doing this? So A is not right. Number D. Number D. He is denying the possibility of a solution by disparaging each possible alternative system. Does he mention any alternative system? Ask yourself. Does he mention any alternative system? So when he's not mentioning any alternative system, is he disparaging them? No. Is he saying that these alternative systems are bad? They will not work? No. In fact, the current system will not work. So D also is gone. What should be the answer? Answer is C. Yes, answer is C. He is employing an analogy. What is the analogy? He believes that these healthcare costs are like a pliable spending balloon. Whichever side you push, it will bulge on that side. So he's comparing it. He's comparing it to a pliable spending balloon. So he's employing an analogy to characterize interrelationships. It should be C. Yes, Nikita, what is your question? The only reason I chose A over C was that this analogy is only of one line. Yes, yeah, first he tells you the reason. First he tells you, what does he do? First he tells you what is happening, what is the current situation. And then he tells you that this situation is just like a pliable spending balloon. Analogy does not look like the main thing. Yeah, but that is how the argument proceeds. That is how the argument proceeds. First, first he tells you what is his argument. His argument is that the current system will not solve the problem. Why it will not solve the problem? Because everybody is trying to shift. Everybody is trying to shift the shift the cost. And this is just like this has become just like a pliable spending balloon. So what is he doing? Isn't he comparing it to a balloon? That is how it proceeds. He never asks you what is the main argument. He says how does the argument proceed? Should be answer should be C for question number 8. Any other option you think can be right? Okay. Number 9, same paragraph. Number 9, the argument provides the most support for which one of the following? What is most supported based on this particular argument? This is easy. Number E, nay, unfilled hospital beds. How? Why have you come to specifics? Since unfilled hospital beds contribute to overhead charges on each patient's bill, it would be unwise to hold unused hospital capacity in reserve for large scale emergencies. But you're looking at only one of the aspects of the cost. The cost of treatment, apart from the charges for hospital beds, there are so many other charges. So, in fact, number E, what is happening is that in number E, if you are focusing only on hospital beds, then you are actually using the current piecemeal system. Because what happens in the piecemeal system, the hospital will say that okay, we will pay for the drugs, but For room charges, you would have to contact your insurance company. Insurance company will say, no, we will pay for the consumables. For room charges, you will have to probably shell out the money on your own. That is how they keep shifting. So in fact, number E is talking about the piecemeal system. Okay, I think number A should be the answer. From whatever we have learned in this passage, we can conclude that under the conditions in which the current system operates, the overall volume of healthcare costs could be shrunk only by a comprehensive approach, because the current piecemeal system is not working, so we will need a comprehensive approach. Only then we'll be able to sink the healthcare costs. Answer should be A for question number 9. Is this now clear? Anybody has any doubt, please stop me. I'm in no hurry. What is the approach, Nikita? Okay. What is he trying to prove? What is he trying to prove? Everything else, if you look at the entire paragraph, this is his conclusion. His conclusion is the first line. Everything else, he's he's giving you to substantiate his conclusion. Yes or no? Okay. So when he tells you the argument provides the most support for which of the following, so what does his conclusion support? What is the conclusion? Read the conclusion. Conclusion says that we cannot find a coherent solution for the problem of reducing healthcare costs within the current piecemeal system. So this means that if we don't have a piecemeal system, then probably we would be able to find a solution. Simple. Apart from the first line, everything else is just mentioned in support of his conclusion, which is the very first line. Reducing requires the unison of the three. Yes, unison of the three. Yes, it would have to be comprehensive. Okay. Should I move to number 10? Question number 10. Yeah. Okay. Number 10. Very easy. What is the advertisement saying? Anyone who exercises knows from experience that exercise leads to better performance of physical organs such as heart and lungs, as well as improvement in muscle tone. And because your brain is also a physical organ, your actions can improve its performance. That means if you exercise your brain, just like you exercise, then uh, you see better performance of your heart and lungs. Similarly, because brain is an organ, if you exercise, then what will happen? You will see better performance of the brain. So to exercise the brain, he is telling you act now. How will you exercise the brain? Act now. Subscribe to stimulus. What is stimulus? The magazine. Subscribe to a magazine stimulus because it is the magazine which exercises your brain. So just like you exercise other physical organs, you can exercise your brain by reading our magazine called Stimulus, because we know that when you exercise, then it results in better performance of your organ. Now the question is, the advertisement employs which one of the following argumentative strategies? How is he trying to convince you? A. A. It cites experimental evidence. Acha, where is the experimental evidence? Where is the experiment being conducted? Puneet, you marked A. No, this is wrong. There is no experiment. Some people mark B. It ridicules people. Does it? Do you see it ridiculing anyone? No. This is also gone. Number D. It supports its recommendation by a careful analysis of the concept of exercise. Does it analyze the concept of exercise? What is exercise? What is meant by exercise? Does he analyze exercise? No, of course not. So this is also not right. He just tells you what is the benefit of exercise in just one line. He does not analyze the concept of exercise. What is meant by exercise? All these things are not mentioned. So it goes without saying that answer is EA. This guy is assuming that because brains and muscles, they are similar in one respect, that means they are similar in every respect. Yes, they both are organs, but that does not mean that everything will be the same. That does not mean that everything will work the same. So he's assuming, this guy is trying to imply, or he's assuming that brains and muscles, because they are similar in one respect, they will be similar in other respects also. Okay, answer should be E for question number 10. Please take a look. Anybody requires clarification? Ask. Okay. Now let's come to the last 5 questions for today, number 11 to number 15. I will give you 15 minutes. 10:55 is the time right now. 11:10 we will start the discussion. Please start. Okay, let's check. Are we done? Question number 11. Number 11, he starts by telling you that environmentalists, they believe that consumers should have environmental awareness. They should be aware of the environment, and consumers should accept moral responsibility for our effects on the environment. If we accept moral responsibility, then what will happen? Then those products that directly or indirectly harm the environment, it would be avoided. Okay? But the problem is that unfortunately, it is usually impossible for consumers to assess the environmental impact of a product. So if they are not able to assess the environmental impact of the product, then the question is how it will be impossible for them to consciously restrict their purchases to environmentally benign products. Okay, when I don't know, when it is impossible for me to assess what is going to be the impact, how will I make a decision whether to buy it or not buy it? Because of this impossibility, there can be no moral duty to choose products in the way that these environmentalists urge. Since why there is no moral duty? Why? Yes, it should be B. Absolutely. Yes, there is no moral duty because a person cannot possibly have a moral duty to do what he or she is unable to do. When it is impossible for me to assess the environmental impact, and how can you say that it is my moral duty to do something or not do something when I'm not able to assess? Yes, absolutely. This is the answer, number B. Because if you look at the starting statements, it says that if consumers are aware of the environment, then they will accept moral responsibility. And when they accept moral responsibility, they will select products that do not harm the environment. But the problem is how, when they cannot assess whether it will harm or not harm, then how will they accept moral responsibility? Okay. Raj, you asking for number C. Since moral considerations should not be the sole determinants of what products are made available to consumers, number C will contradict what this passage is trying to say. Okay, it will contradict. You have to continue the thought. Over here, he's saying because it is impossible, because of this impossibility, because it is impossible for people to judge whether something is has environmental impact or does not have environmental impact. That, then because it is impossible, so you cannot place a moral duty on people. Okay, why? Why you cannot place a moral duty? Why you cannot place a moral duty? Because if you are in a situation where you cannot make a judgment, then how are you expected to judge? How will you judge? Okay, this is what he's trying to say. So number C is actually contradicting what he's trying to say. Number C is saying that no, why do you only make choices based on moral considerations? There can be other areas also. There can be other things also that you can use. That is what he's trying to say. But the question is asking you to complete the argument. So when you complete the argument, in a sense, you are trying to continue the thought. Answer should be for question number 11B. If this is clear, let's come to question number 12. Number 12. Nutritionists have recommended that people eat more fiber. Okay, people should eat more fiber. Advertisements for a new fiber supplement pill state only that it contains 44% fiber. The advertising claim is misleading in its selection of information on which to focus. If which one of the following is true? How can we say that this advertisement is misleading? Because it is focusing on 44% fiber. It is focusing on fiber. How can we say that? Nikita, you have marked number E. Yes, very simple. Yes, we can say it is misleading because if the recommended daily intake of fiber is 20 to 30 grams and this pill contains one third gram is the fiber, okay, in this particular pill, whereas the requirement is 20 to 30 grams. However, the problem is that this particular advertisement claims that it has 44% fiber. So this 44% is one third gram. Even if it is actually trying to mislead you by by using this 44% figure. But the 44% it translates to this one third gram, which is inadequate because the intake that is recommended is 20 to 30 grams. So even if the fiber content is 44%, still does not it is still not equal to the recommended daily intake of fiber. Okay, this is how it is misleading. Okay, uh, Raj, in fact number D तो फिर अच्छा हो जाएगा ना? If the label of the advertised product recommends taking 3 pills every day, if it says you take 3 pills, that means you will be consuming more fiber. If you will be consuming more fiber, then how can we say that the advertising claim is misleading? It will only be misleading when it claims that you are consuming more, but in reality you are not consuming more. Okay, so D will not work. D will not work. Any other option you think can be right, please ask. Okay. Number 13. If this is clear, let's come to question number 13. Harry says airlines have made it possible. Airlines have made it possible for anyone to travel around the world in much less time than was formerly possible. To this, Judith replies, this is not true. Many flights are too expensive for all but the rich. Now the question is, Judith's response shows that she interprets Harry's statements to imply what? How does Judith interpret Harry's statement? What does Judith believe Harry wanted to say? What do you think? Yes, Nikita, again you are right. No, answer is not D. Answer is E. Judith believes that Harry wanted to say that anyone can afford to travel long distances by air. Okay, just because he says airlines have made it possible for anyone to travel around the world, Judith, how has Judith interpreted this statement? Judith believes that Harry is trying to say anyone can afford to travel long distances by air, and that is why Judith says that no, what you're saying is wrong, because there are many people who cannot afford it. So this is the interpretation. This is how Judith interprets Harry's statements. Did you understand? Number D. How does Judith interpret Harry's statement? She Judith believes that Harry wanted to say that most forms of world travel are not affordable for most people. Of course not. Is this what Judith thinks? If Judith believes Harry wanted to say that most forms of world travel are not affordable for most people, then why is Harry saying airlines have made it possible for anyone to travel around the world? It's not possible. D is wrong. Please understand the question. The question is, how did Judith interpret Harry's statement? Harry ने तो बस ये बोला ना, airlines have made it possible for anyone to travel around the world. So Judith believes that Harry wanted to say anybody can travel on travel by plane. That is what Judith believed Harry wanted to say. And in response to that, Judith says that no, Harry, what you're saying is wrong because there are many people who cannot afford flights. Answer is E. Did you understand? Anybody has doubt, please stop me. And don't keep doubts to yourselves. Please discuss. Question number 14. Number 14, Vivek. Vivek, which is an artificial sweetener, it is used only in soft drinks. It is carcinogenic for mice, but only when it is consumed in very large quantities. For a person, for this sweetener to cause damage to a person would have to drink 25 cans of Bivik sweetened soft drinks per day. Okay, for that reason, Bivik is in fact safe for people. So for for this sweetener to actually cause damage to humans, we humans would have to consume 25 cans of Bivix sweetened soft drinks, and for that reason, Bivix is safe for people. So, in order for the conclusion that Bivix is safe for people to be properly drawn, which one of the following must be true? Very simple. If we have to consume at least 25 cans, that means he's assuming that we will consume less than 25 cans, fewer than 25 cans. Yes, number C should be the answer. People drinks fewer than 25 cans of Vivix sweetened soda per day. Only then we can make the conclusion that Vivix is in fact safe for people. Yes, 14 answer is C. And finally, question number 15. Before the printing press, books could be purchased only in expensive manuscript copies. Okay, but what did the printing press do? The printing press produced books that were significantly less expensive than the manuscript editions. The public's demand for printed books in the first years after the invention of printing press was many times greater than the demand had been for manuscript copies. This increase demonstrates, what does it demonstrate? It demonstrates that there was a dramatic jump in the number of people who learned how to read in the years after publishers first started producing books on the printing press. So he believes that literacy increased because the books started to be printed by the printing press. This is what he's trying to say. Because of the printing press, literacy increased. That is what he's trying to say. Which of the following statements, if true, will cast doubt on his arguments? How can we prove that no, this is not the case? Number E. Mohit, you mark number B. Number E. The first printed books published after the invention of the printing press would have been useless to illiterate people. Okay, since the books had virtually no illustrations. So what would happen? But problem is that he is trying to say that in comparison, earlier only 10% people used to read books, or let's say only 10 books were sold earlier. Now 1,000 books are sold. Now 1,000 books are sold. So if 1,000 books are sold because of the printing press, this proves this proves that many people had learned how to read. Earlier, only 10 people would were able to read and therefore buy the books, and now thousands of people were able to read and buy the books. So how will we cast doubt on this argument? Yes, I think number C should be the answer. Number C says in the first years after the printing press was invented, printed books were purchased primarily by people who had always bought and read expensive manuscripts, but they could afford a greater number of printed books for the same money. So it is the same 10 people. Earlier, these 10 people who used to buy manuscript copies of books, now because of the printing press, books have become cheaper. So they are increasing their purchase. They can afford more books, and it is the same group that is now buying more and more books. This proves this proves that it is the same number of people who are reading the books. Other people have not learned how to read. That is how we can cast doubts on his arguments. It should be C. Okay? Please take a look and tell me if there is any doubt, anything that requires clarification. Please ask. Okay. Everything is clear? Right. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, when we meet, tomorrow we will have again, I think, practice on fill in the blanks, word-based workshop. So it would be fill in the blanks session tomorrow. And if you want to come for backup sessions, then in the evening we will have grammar review. Sorry, error correction, verb tenses, and tomorrow will be comparison and parallelism. If you come for backup sessions in the evening. Okay, so that's it. Take care. I think you have another class. So take rest, and then you can come for the next session. Take care, all of you.
Music